welcome to Good Game Pocket Edition, your weekly roundup of all things gaming. I'm Barjo.
And I'm Hex. This week we saddle up the Chocobos for another adventure in Lightning Returns.
I love a good Chocobo ride, Hex. But first, another Japanese gaming icon rebooted with Strider. 25 years after the original game, the new Strider looks a lot sharper, but the gameplay has stayed true to its 2D roots. Whether he's slashing enemies, scaling walls, or somersaulting obstacles, Strider moves with constant speed and grace. This game expands on the arcade original by introducing far larger levels with an emphasis on exploration.
I do think they stretched this formula out a little bit too far though. The original game was only half an hour, but it blitzed along and had a good mix of locations. In the new game though, the city level has been drawn out into 6 hours of very samey rooms. Plus, I'd say the levels are arguably too large now with lots of backtracking. It was a bit of a grind.
I don't think so. I quite enjoyed the backtracking, if not for anything else, just to hear that iconic music sound.
Yeah, the difficulty balance just didn't feel quite right to me though. The levels are absolutely littered with trigger-happy enemies. Because you get shot at constantly, they just scattered health boxes everywhere.
Yeah, it did feel a bit lazy to me, but I thought it was worth persisting to the end of this game for that exceptional final act, so I gave it 6.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I gave it 5.5. Over on Spawn Point, we also looked at a couple of space-themed games. First up is Drox Operative. The game is a curious blend of top-down shooting with traditional RPG mechanics. Initially, the learning curve is pretty steep as you get your head around all the customization options. But before long, you'll be in the groove of traveling between sectors, and equipping the right weaponry for each battle became just instinctive.
It's good to see that blasting away at the aliens isn't always the smartest move, though. You've got the option to trade gear with the aliens, or help them out of danger. And the AI systems are impressively deep, allowing you to trick alien races into fighting against each other.
You can really tinker around with the ships, too. There's almost an art to finding the right balance between your ship's power limitations and the best weaponry and equipment to carry. And sure, the graphics are a bit average, but its depth really won me over, so I gave it 7.5.
I gave it 7.5 as well. Next, we planet hop with Starbound. Your mission is to comb each new world for resources by mining minerals and hunting the wildlife. But it's no easy task because hostile aliens pose a constant threat. The randomized nature of the worlds ensure that landscapes and enemies are always unpredictable, especially as you have to factor in environment dangers like landslides, freezing climates, and meteor showers.
Generally, I found the game was at its best with friends though.
Mine for me! Mine!
You can gather resources much faster, which then gives you a leg up in learning the crafting systems as well. Although I could have done without some of your trolling, Barjo.
I had to put my dirt somewhere, Hex. To go somewhere. I was so impressed at how well the whole game flowed, and how polished and fully featured it is, considering that they're still adding things all the time and it's not really finished yet. And when it was time to head off to a new planet, the game doesn't force your hand. You just get a sense that your character was no longer being challenged by the local aliens, and you make the decision on your own to reach for the stars and find somewhere new to put your feet down. And that music is just so wonderful. I gave this 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.
It was 8 from me too. Okay, Barjo, we better go check the inbox.
All right, Hex, what's our first question for this week?
Well, we've got this one from Brandon, who is in Grafton, New South Wales. Hey guys, just wanted to ask your opinion on subscription fees for games such as MMOs. In my opinion, I think you should pay for a game once, then you should be able to keep it and play it anytime you want. Keep up the awesome work.
Thanks, Brandon. It's certainly an interesting time for MMOs. There are substantial costs involved with running and maintaining MMO servers to host hundreds of thousands or even millions of players at once. Plus, there's developing new content, there's balancing what's already there, and patches and updates all at the same time. MMOs are big, complicated, expensive beasts. At the same time, the industry has been largely moving away from subscription models for a few years now.
Yeah, that's why we thought it was a pretty ballsy move from the Elder Scrolls Online team to go with a full-priced game and subscription model. The game is out soon though, so we'll just have to wait and see if that's going to be something that people feel is worth paying by the month for.
Yeah, that struck me odd too. The Scroll series is a big brand now, but is it big enough to attract a player base that is happy to pay a monthly fee? It's hard to fathom subbing again personally after the likes of Path of Exile, Guild Wars 2 and Neverwinter. They all did some pretty incredible non-subscription based gaming in the last few years.
Yeah, also I'm pretty sure that some MMOs that have gone with a free-to-play model have actually boosted their player base and revenue. I remember reading that Star Wars The Old Republic actually doubled their income after shifting to a free-to-play model. Of course, no one actually wants to pay a monthly fee for anything. I guess the really important thing with a subscription-based game is that you feel like you're getting value out of it.
Yes, and subbing is also a big commitment. I mean, personally, along with my phone, internet, various PC softwares, and a gym membership I never use, an MMO sub ticking away each month out of my bank account as well is just something I want to go away for good. And subscription also adds pressure for you to either play the game constantly so you feel like you're getting that value out of it, or just quit altogether.
Yeah, and I find that when a game is free to play and you're having a good time, you're more likely to spend cash on microtransactions because you feel the game is providing value to you and you want to give back. But generally, I agree with you, Brandon. I like to buy a game and own it and not have to worry about subscriptions or monetization ruining things.
Yes. But now let's move on to your review. And I can't think of a segue from that conversation into this, so let's just see what people thought of Jazzpunk.
Well, it seems like most of you were pretty unimpressed with quite a few low scores, like this one from Grizzly90 who said, "Nope, don't like it at all, nope." Half a star.
Likewise, MitchDog111 wasn't too into it, saying, "I think this game has crap graphics and is kinda creepy." Half a star.
GLaDOS for the win was a tad more generous, saying, "Weird and kinda lame." 3 stars.
Young Gainer was also a tad less harsh and wrote, "Not as good as the Stanley Parable because that made me laugh lots, so it's not that good." 3.5 stars.
But some of you did seem to enjoy it, like David's Gaming, who said, "Jazzpunk deliver great potential and has a fair amount of humour. Jazzpunk is like your dad's joke, laughing at the terrible joke." 8 stars.
Well, there you go. Didn't seem like Jazzpunk's brand of humour hit the mark with many of you. But on that note, back to the studio, Hex. Lightning Returns is an action RPG set 500 years after the end of Final Fantasy XIII-2. The god Benevelzar has awakened Lightning and tasked her with saving the souls of humanity, because apparently the world is ending in 13 days. In exchange for this, Benevelzar promises to reunite Lightning with Sarah, who died at the end of Final Fantasy XIII-2.
If you thought Final Fantasy XIII and XIII-2 had complicated stories, get ready for a whole new layer of absurdity. Here are some problems that I have. Why does Benevelzar need Lightning to rescue souls? And why awaken Lightning with only 13 days till the end of the world? Why not give her 500 years to save more souls? Also, how am I running around a city looking like the exact pink-haired description of their most wanted person? No one but the guards blink an eye.
Yeah, it's so confusing, and I tried really hard to keep up with the plot this time around, but all the different names for everything. Iradia, Yggdrasil, Valhalla, Etro, plus throw in time travel and sleep stasis, and nope, I'm lost. I'm sure if you're a hardcore Final Fantasy fan, then some of this will somehow make sense to you, but I think for your average human, this is not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's all a bit ridiculous. Story aside, right from the start of the game though, you're given free reign pretty much of whichever area you want to explore or missions you want to tackle, and that's such a welcome change from the last game. There are 4 distinct areas to explore. The religious center of Luxarion,
Most of the people who live here worship the almighty Benevelzar.
the entertainment and pleasure city of Yuznan, the last remaining area with greenery called the Wildlands, and the ancient ruins of the Dead Dunes.
It's just a shame that the missions are so boring. It's like they've taken the worst quests from MMOs and that's what you do most of the time.
Wait! I have a fantastic idea. You wouldn't be able to help me accessorize, would you? Can you collect adornments for me? If I see enough of them, it might trigger my dormant fashion sense.
And quests are the only way to level up your base stats, so you have to do fetch quest after fetch quest after fetch quest in order to be strong enough for a boss fight.
The combat is probably my favorite part of this game.
Yeah, and that's the good news really. The combat is more action-orientated and focused. Attacks and spells take up a certain amount of ATB, or active time battle points, but you have 3 different schemas that you can switch between at any time, and each schema has its own ATB gauge. This means you almost never have to wait for your ATB gauge to replenish like in the last games. You simply switch schema if you run out of points. Plus, there's a big emphasis on guarding, because if you guard at the right time, you can negate almost all damage that would have been taken and stagger enemies quicker. which makes them more vulnerable to attacks.
Yeah, it all just makes it so much more fun and exciting to fight now instead of just pressing auto battle. And there's a lot of gear to consider too.
Final Fantasy fashion!
Final Fantasy thoughts, Badger?
Well, there was not much fun to be had here. Technically, everything seems to work, but I just did not care about anything in this game, so I'm giving it 5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I really liked the combat, but that's not really enough for me to recommend this game to anyone. I really hope the future of Final Fantasy games gets a big shake-up because I'm giving this 6.
Well, that's all the time we've got for this week, but don't forget you can catch regular episodes of Good Game 8:30 p.m. on ABC2 Tuesday nights.
Next week on the show, we skydive into battle with Titanfall.
One thing I don't understand, Hex, is why all the guys just run out there without their Titans in the first place. Just wait for your mech before getting off the ship.
War waits for no one, Badger. You gotta get in there. Till next time, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
Barjo out. Doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, you've got
Unless they're clones,
you've got those
even
anti-Titan
then.
guns, and it takes time for them to make them. It's about the balance.
Just wait for the mech.